Yeah, and I guarantee you, if you went to those players and say, "Hey, fellas, if we play these 2 games, you will get cost of attendance." I guarantee you, the decision will be unanimous. Coach, let's play them. Let's play them
Right.
because the athletes are actually benefiting from it. But it's a it's a two-edged sword. Even though you're
Well,
playing those games to help those kids with the cost of attendance, you still put them out there. And AD was right. You still doing it's just doing it another way. You're still doing the exact same thing.
well, I did answer yes to it when he posed that
Yep.
question, but then I think I came with something out of the field remark behind it. Because basically I said, hey, $1,000 versus 100. I'm gonna take the 1,000, but yes, I'm still taking one for the team. I believe it is that. But
Right.
cost of attendance comparable to NIL. It can't. To me, NIL is quick and short term. Cost of attendance is something that could be long term. Wheeler, can you compare and contrast NIL versus cost of attendance, or is cost of attendance something that should be looked at more of doing it? Because Coach Banks, the director of Southern, he came on the show and talked about that's what Southern's trying to do for their student athletes.
I think cost of attendance has the ability to affect everyone, whereas NIL is
Mhm.
going to affect only those
Son.
players that are popular, that are
Right.
marketable themselves,
Mhm.
like starting
Correct.
quarterback, starting running back, your star receiver, or something like that. But,
Yeah.
cost of attendance has an opportunity to affect everyone. And so,
Mhm.
that's why the cost of attendance to me outweighs anything that NIL can bring to the table. Plus the
Right.
fact that NIL is not, how can I put it, the longevity factor in terms of
Mhm.
NIL is not there, as opposed to the longevity factor in terms of the potential of cost of attendance. So, you're able, in my opinion, you're able to cover more ground if you're able to do cost of attendance than you are NIL, which only concerns itself with a certain number, a limited number of players, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because that's interesting because you mentioned quarterbacks and they're getting those deals, their name recognition, but without those big guys up front.
Yeah, I mean
I
that
mean, what about
that goes,
O linemen, D linemen?
and these guys are
Uh,
only human. These guys are only human. And at what
mhm.
point in time does that doubt or whatever, jealousy or whatever it is you want to
Yep.
call it, kind of creep in? Here my jersey's getting dirty, and I'm keeping folk up off this guy, and he ain't even buy me a burger last week. So maybe I need to slip and fall on one to kind of who's in charge, who's actually in charge up here. And, maybe he'll start to share the wealth, or what is saying, the Godfather, wet my beak. Maybe he'll a little bit. So it's something that kids nowadays, they think about those things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something to be thought about, that's for sure.
And we talked.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab, running solo, but don't be too concerned. We'll get the other guys in the group, and we even got some special folks that are coming in here maybe to give us some additional information on what's going on at the Division II, what we call the mid-major level NAIA, particularly looking at the CIAA, see if we can get some insight on that. But with that being said, let me welcome you to episode 366 Inside the HBCU Sports Lab show and podcast, as I'm Dr. Kenyatta of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. They're not on assignment. They are coming. I had a couple of things that have gotten them to slow down, trying to get them together so to make sure we're ready for this Cactus Jack HBCU Classic as we move forward. With that being said, welcome to episode 366 Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. We call it sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We'll get them a little payback as they get going. With that being said, we're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, that is Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THD Agency. THD Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Let's get into some of the news of the day. As this is a big sporting weekend in a lot of ways. Obviously we got some big matchups at the HBCU basketball as things come towards the end of the season. Final weekend for the CIAA. Last couple of weekends for the SIEC. Same with the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference as they come down the stretch. And then you have just a couple of weeks for the major division with the SWAC and the MEAC and all those independent programs. But with that being said, we have the SWAC Indoor Track and Field Championship set for this weekend, February 16th and 17th. 2023 Southwestern Athletic Conference Men's and Women's Indoor Track and Field Championship will take place Birmingham's Crossplex on Thursday, February the 16th, Friday, February the 17th. Championships will be streamed live on Friday, February the 17th, starting at 12 noon. I think there's been an adjustment in the time of that, so check SWAC.org to get that information. But it will be on the SWAC Digital Network YouTube page to watch the action. Prairie View A&M men's and women's indoor track and field teams claim titles in 2022. Can they do it again? Please visit SWAC.org, as a lot of teams will be in the heat trying to catch them and see what they want to get done in terms of what that looks like from that perspective. So always happy to see what goes on then. Also, I alluded a little bit to this in terms of the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic, if I can get it out. That's 2023. Big time event starts tomorrow. With 11 o'clock. Teams getting it done in a lot of ways there. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Cactus Jack HBCU Classic is set to make its debut at Minute Maid Park Friday, February the 17th through Sunday, February 19th, 2023. As you know, the Classic will be first of its kind, 3-year deal. So let's get in early. Houston, since the Astros hosted the Major League Baseball Urban Invitational that exclusively featured historically Black colleges and universities back in 2013. Oh man, almost 10 years ago. Time flies. The inaugural 9-game tournament will feature Houston area Prairie View A&M University and Texas Southern University, and 4 schools from the neighboring states of Louisiana and Mississippi. That's Southern University in Grambling State out of Louisiana, as you know, Jackson State and Mississippi Valley State University out of Mississippi. 2,500 fans each day will receive exclusive travel Scott bobblehead presented by Cactus Jack Foundation. That's his foundation that often gives scholarships to HBCU students that are heading that way. While the Minute Maid Park roof protects from the rain, excessive heat. The ballpark, it's cold in winter months, so we plan on making sure that you bring your jackets and attire, as it's kind of gotten cold this weekend here in Houston. So be aware. So those are some of the things that's going on there. I'm fascinated to see how that breaks down. Saturday is a big day there with obviously home games for Prairie View, as well as Texas Southern playing Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley. So Mississippi Valley fans, much like Prairie View and Texas Southern fans, are going to have to do some rip and run and make sure they get it all in. But you also have the big class. AT&T serving and presenting sponsors of NBA HBCU Classic for second year from NBA.com. There's a great article on Anscape that talks about the Grambling State Southern rivalry and many sports, particularly. This time we're looking at it from the basketball perspective. Great interviews from some players coming, transferring in and seeing what the rivalry really means. So fascinating in so many ways in terms of what that looks like. A&T serving as presenting sponsors for the NBA HBCU Classic for second year from NBA.com. AT&T is at it again. We'll be presenting partner of the NBA HBCU Classic for the second year. NBA Today, together, the NBA and AT&T will donate $100,000 to Classic opponents, Grambling State University and Southern University, for a total of $200,000 to support academic resources, athletics, and wellness services as part of their respective ongoing commitments to the students, faculty, and alumni of HBCUs. Google and Adidas will serve as associate partners of the game. Throughout the NBA All-Star 2023 weekend, the NBA will continue its ongoing commitments to HBCUs with more than $1 million contributed to the organization that provided scholarships, economic empowerment, and career development opportunities to HBCU students and institutions. Always wonderful. Let's get a quote in here to see what they're saying. Statement from said Michelle Jordan, Chief Diversity Officer of AT&T. Quote, AT&T is excited to be back for our second year as a presenting partner for NBA HBCU Classic, end quote. Jordan continued the education and experience provided at HBCU is a valuable part of Black culture. And these schools produce some of the smartest young minds in our country who eventually become leaders of companies like AT&T. We are honored to be part of an entire weekend dedicated to celebrating and uplifting HBCU students to support their education and athletic aspirations, helping them reach greater possibilities, end quote. Coverage of the Bayou rivalry will begin at 4 o'clock, that is Eastern Standard Time, 3 o'clock Central on TNT, ESPN2, NBA TV will play-by-play from Stephanie Reddy, Coppin State University alumni, alongside analyst Grant Hill, Monica Minutt, sideline reporter Taylor Rooks, and special contributor Sierra Jones will be in the house. Jones is a recent graduate of Norfolk State University and contributed to the broadcast as part of the Warner Brothers Discovery Sports Oscar Pope Lift Every Voice in Fellowship. So a lot of great things going on there in terms of what that looks like. I'm excited about that matchup. I'm going to have all my screens on, be ripping and running, getting to the baseball park, making sure I'm ready to catch this up so we can give you updates next week. A lot of good stuff is going on here in terms of the partnership for HBCU. So wanted to get that out to you. Tennessee State dropped their schedule. North Carolina Central dropped their football schedule. So we'll get a chance maybe to jump in that, see if any of y'all are interested in terms of what that looks like. But with that being said, let's jump in here and take our first break. We'll be right back on the other side. We'll come back and see if we can get into maybe a little news. Really want to get into these mid-major polls. We'll get into the women first because Chivalry's not dead. We'll see what that looks like. Come back as we come on the other side and bring you some other great HBCU news.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
T. Madden & Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden & Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports. You see, we got Mike that has jumped on here and came back in. We're going to get into the women's mid-major. Couple of changes in terms of the arrangement of the top five, but nobody dropped out. So the women's are holding pretty steady in terms of what it looks like here, but I still want to see what Mike thinks in terms of what that is going on. Let's start with those teams dropping out. No team dropped out of this week in terms of, but we do have some receiving votes. In terms of those receiving votes, none other than Philander Smith Panthers. They sit at 20-5, 10-3 in terms of their conference rank, gaining 17 points. They had a tough rematch with the Russ Bearcats, where the Russ Bearcats end up getting some of that revenge back, where they upset Russ Bears the week before, at least in some people's eyes. But Philander Smith fell this past weekend to Russ Bearcats. But they are still holding strong. 20 wins on the season, which is extremely impressive. Savannah State Tigers sit at 16-6, 12-5, 10 first place votes. Lincoln Lions are 17-7, 11-3 with 5 points. Let's get into the Russ Bearcats sitting at 18-5, 11-2, 23 points. Briefs ranked 4 as they fall a spot this weekend. Bringing us to number 4, Florida Memorial Lions sit at 20-5, 14-1. They have not lost to HBCU this weekend. Are playing some tremendous basketball. 20 wins, another team with 20 wins. Anytime you get to 20, extremely impressive. 36 points. They move up a spot this week. Bringing us to number 3, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets, 19-4, 14-4. Stay at number 3. Not a lot going on there. Bringing us to number 2, Fayetteville State Broncos. That's out of the CIAA. We'll bring in Stephen Gaither after the end of this poll ranking and see what his thoughts, as I do know he's listening. Sitting at 16-6, 12-2, 53 points, 2 first place votes. Had a couple of games since then, so he'll be able to tell us what he thinks about the CIAA and maybe give us a little hint. At number 1, it was none other than Tuskegee Golden Tigers, another team that hit that 20-win plateau, 20-3, 17-0, only undefeated team, if you would, in terms of the women's ranks. Really, all HBCUs out there. 6 first place votes, 60 points, looking really good. Before I go to you, let's bring in Stephen Gaither, Mike, before I get your thoughts on this. Go ahead and get Stephen in here and ready to go. As we get in here, coming in here with him, Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 5 on the women's mid-major division? Mike, hit your mute.
My bad. Sorry about that. So anytime you can go 17-0 in your division, that garners some attention. Tuskegee 17-0. Then, man, you take a look at some of the data points and where they are, man, and you look at where they are scoring wise. Woo! I mean, Tuskegee 72 points a game. Letting their opponents score 55 points a game. That's a 20-point differential. So I got to give Tuskegee kind of a higher elevated rate. That's just one data point that I'll say. So the other one, Philander Smith Rust, I give them credit. They're 11-2, 18-5 overall. So overall, that's another data point. Look at their win to loss ratio, not only in the conference, but outside the conference. I got to give them some credit as well. They're playing some good ball. I would wonder if Russ plays like a Tuskegee, what that matchup would look like. So those are just a couple of data points that kind of stick out in my mind, Doc.
Yeah, I like when you talk about some of those teams up there. As I said, breaking it down, Tuskegee Golden Tigers, they're looking really well, 20 wins on the season. Are you seeing that much difference between when you look at what you see of the top teams at the NAIA level versus the top teams at the NCAA Division II level? Obviously, poll rankings mix them up together. SIAC, CIAA, everybody always have these arguments, Gold Coast Athletic Conference and the independent programs in terms of maybe one conference being stronger than the other. I think in a lot of ways, CIAA, particularly on the men's side, maybe on the women's side, you might go with the SIAC. Some people would have some arguments with that in regards to what that looks like potentially, but that may be interesting. But then you have some of the best records coming out of the NIA level with Philander Smith, Russ Bear, Florida Memorial in terms of that. What are your thoughts in terms of this intriguing look at the NCAA Division II programs and the NAIA program?
Yeah, that's always a question with me, Doc. Because as you mentioned yourself, these polls kind of mix them up a little bit, and so that's why I asked. If a Russ played a Tuskegee, or if a Philander Smith played a Tuskegee or Lincoln, what would that match up? Lincoln's 7-2, 12-13, 12-3 in the conference. But if you look at statistically where they're at, where they're scoring points per game, point differential, they're just as competitive. So you can't really just overlay and say, you're playing a GCAC, but Division II versus NAIA. It's to me, there's no, I guess, salt and pepper way to distinguish between strength of schedule and who you're playing. Normally you can. You like those data points to stick out, but for me, I can't. The one that sticks out to me again is Tuskegee, but I mean Lincoln looks just as strong. Fayetteville State 8-1, 13-2 in the conference, but you look at who they play. It's impossible to really compare their overall schedule to an NAIA schedule because you have some NAIA teams that can play competitively at the D2 level. To be honest.
In a lot of ways, we're always asking about these CIAA, SIACs that we can get more of these matchups. With that being said, at least in basketball, men's and women's, would you be interested in seeing some matchups between Gulf Coast Athletic Conference and the SIAC, or Gulf Coast Athletic Conference and the CIAA, getting even more of that involved during the early part of the season before they get into conference play?
Yeah, I would like that. I think that makes a more attractive matchup if you could see those early in the season. I think it gives you a better snapshot. It also makes your polls more interesting. When you look at who's number one, particularly in the top 5, top 10, it makes your polls more interesting if you could get some of the CIAA or NAIA versus Division II matchups. Then the docs polls become, from my perspective, the law of the land.
Yeah, good stuff there. Good stuff there. Let me give a shout out to some of the folks that joined us before we take this next break with some of those folks in the lab. Always giving us love. Emma Price, Carol Keelam in the building. Silas Edward Morris, PV for the win. Silas Edward McMorris, it says, yes, we'll see PVU. Lennon Blau is in here. Good evening, fellas. Norfolk State University Spartans looking for payback this weekend against Morgan State. Yeah, I like that. Good point. Norfolk State is on Win Street on the men's side, playing some good basketball. Good stuff. You're looking for that ending year matchup with Howard and Norfolk last game of the season. That could be for everything. That's an interesting matchup.
Oh,
a couple of weeks away. I always like looking ahead. Carol Keelam says, good evening, lab. Yes, PV leading in the first day. G-Boom Holly, going to be a Cactus Jack tournament tomorrow. Good stuff, good stuff. Edwin D. Moore is in here. Good evening, Dean and the professors. Giving us some love in here. Brother Wendell Davis is checking us out, as always. Carl Edmond. Chuck Hunt is in the building. Stan Hardy is in here. Let's get it. Grambling State University basketball. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Women's side will be interesting, too, in terms of that matchup. Edwin D. Moore, Professor Washington with the fresh shade. They giving you kudos with the head looking clean up there. With that, Stickers will be right back after this break on the other side. We'll bring in a guest, Stephen Gaither. He'll give us some breakdown in terms of what's going on in the CIAA, giving us some in-depth knowledge behind the scenes, both from the men's and women's. And then I'll give him a chance to see what he says about the poll. I'm going to ask him to be careful there. He is invited. Wouldn't have to turn off his mic, but no, we'll give him free reign and see what he has to say.
Why don't you turn off his mic like you turn off mine? Turn off his mic.
Hey, he cut up. It won't be hard. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeaversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Charles Bishop is on assignment. He might be able to sneak in and join this letter. He's trying to get some of those tickets and get things done like that, making sure that he's able to give us some updates and news for this weekend as he'll be running around getting it done. But we have none other than Steve Gaither, HBCU Game Day founder there, CIAA extraordinaire in regards to his knowledge, particular of that conference. All of them really he will dig in there, but his specialty is right there. He lives it, as a lot of people would say. But with that being said, before I throw out too many niceties, let me ask you, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Doc. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I still see that you are artful with the photography in the background.
Hey, man, you know, I'm spending all this money on camera equipment. I got to make sure I show it off. So, you know, yeah, there you go.
Well, first of all, it's good that you had the money. So that means something is going on.
Happy for that. Yeah.
That could be worse problems.
Let me go over this top five. I know you heard it, but just for dexterity, we'll go over it again. Top five. Number 5, Russ Bears, Cats. Number 4, Florida Memorial Lions. Number 3, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. Number 2, Fayetteville State Broncos. And number 1, Tuskegee Golden Tigers. We released it today, but it actually comes out Tuesday. So it's of the games up to Monday night. And so consider that. And you are welcome to give some of those updates as you go through the poll rankings of your concerns of where teams may end up going next week versus what you think now. We'll give you a chance so you don't have to put it all together. Talk about the poll. We're going to come back and make sure you go into CIAA with the women's side of it as we get into it. Bringing us to number 1, the Tuskegee Golden Tigers, 20-3, 17-0. And then we'll have a chance to ask you a couple of questions. 6 first-place votes. But let's start it off. What do you think about the top 5 mid-major poll rankings in week number 6?
You know, I actually don't have any issue with those, actually. Tuskegee, you know, they've been playing really good basketball the last couple of years under Coach Powell, I believe is her name. You know, she came in and that program was really down in the dumps, and you know, she's turned it around little by little. You know, and so now, you know, they are the hunted. I was looking forward to seeing them last year in the SIAC tournament when they were in Rock Hill, but you know, SIAC women's basketball last year was just such a racket. I didn't even get a chance to see them on Friday afternoon. They were out, you know, so, right. You know, it's definitely impressive what they've done in the SIAC this year. You know, like you said, anytime you can go in your conference where teams know you, especially in the SIAC where it's a lot of your games are conference games. You know, it can be pretty easy to let one slip there. So they haven't. So kudos to them. I know the Rust Bearcats, I know keep up with them through Coach Green over, you know, when we go listen to Josh and those guys on HBCU Nightly. So I know they're feeling good and confident, even though they had to bounce back a little bit. And, you know, a little odd, as I think as Charles has been saying, not to see so many CIAA teams up there. Generally, the conference has been, there's usually at least one or two teams that are just really wiping the floor with the rest of the conference ahead or above and nationally ranked. But I think even so much with the men, and we'll get into that too. I think, last year Lincoln, was kind of head and shoulders over everybody else. But even then, it was a dogfight in the CIAA North with Elizabeth City. And so now I think that there's even that much more parity, but I have had a chance to see Fayetteville State a couple times over the last couple weeks, and they're peaking at the right time. It's a good poll. I have no qualms about it.
I like that, man. We're going to keep you on here and keep asking you questions, man. You know what you're talking about. Stephen K. I don't care what the other people say about your poll rankings of football.
Now, if this had been a couple weeks ago, I would have told you Winston-Salem State women were being a little bit disrespected because they were one of the first one to put pause on Lincoln, but they've run into some injuries and they've had some things too. So they fallen off. But we'll see. Tournament time's a whole new start in Baltimore, so we'll see what's up.
Let's talk about that a little bit before I go to Mike and ask his general thoughts. Let's stick with the CIAA. Let's talk about some of these key matchups going down the stretch. Again, let's stay with the women. I know there was a big one last night in regards to on the men's side that went a long way with Fayetteville State and Claflin that kind of flipped some things that I'm sure you'll be able to talk about on the men's side. But focus a little bit more on the women at this point and talk about first, what are some key things in terms of key matchups that people need to keep your eyes on? And then I want you to give us a little touch. Let's talk about the CIAA tournament. It's the first of the HBCU tournaments that crank up. It starts next week, so you close out essentially this week. So double duty for us. Talk about key matchups as we clinch and go down the stretch, and then talk about CIAA in terms of the women's tournament.
Yeah, well, we're so, the CIAA, it seems like they always get a little creative as far as how they're going to do the tournament seedings. I know, there are two divisions in the CIAA, and traditionally what's happened is the winner of each division would get a number one seed, but they went away from that last year, and from what I understand, they're going to continue to go with the same system. So it's going to be based on your league record. Lincoln, they are matching up against this Saturday. They've got matched up against Bowie State. They've kind of fallen off a couple years back. They were contending and really pushing up there, but they've kind of fallen off. You've got Virginia State and Virginia Union. Both of these teams are rivals. They're close by. Both of them have had a lot of success, but they've been struggling. And really, I think it's just the top teams. Fayetteville State going up against the State Hog team that they should beat easily. And also Lincoln against Bowie. I think if they handle their business, they'll be fine. We'll see. There's a team like, Winston-Salem State. Again, they are, they've hit some hard times recently, had a lot of injuries, lost a lot of their post players. But I think as long as they play any of the teams that don't have a lot of height, I think I would probably like their chances. Coach Lamont has got those young ladies playing extremely hard, but they've lost, I think, 3 or 4 of their bigs, including a young lady who had a fracture in her leg, very gruesome injury on HBCU Go last week. And so they've been kind of, trying to pick things up. But right now, you like Lincoln. It's really them against the field right now. But again, Elizabeth City State is a team that, you don't really want to play at this time of the year either. They've made some strides over the last couple of years.
Well, I'll put you on the spot after I ask Mike. Mike, I'm going to go with you because you used to me putting you on your spot. On the women's side, CIAA, who's coming out of the tournament? Who you got?
Well, you got Lincoln, as you said, playing Bowie State, stat-wise.
This is early one, so you'll get a chance to change it, so go ahead.
Yeah, so you got Lincoln. I mean, you look at their point differential. Bowie State, they're in second place in the North. They're 5-3, 9-5 in the conference, but they're getting outscored on average by their opponents by 10 points. And let's not talk about St. Aug, who plays Fayetteville. they're getting outscored by 1 million points by their opponents. So Fayetteville State and Lincoln should take care of business. And then, if you look on the SIAC side, you look at who's the hot team, who's got the hot hand. Is it Tuskegee? Is Tuskegee really that team? I say yes, they are that monster. And why do I say that? I always go back to data points and stats. You look at their point differential and how they're outscoring their opponents. What they're scoring 72 points a game. Their opponents are scoring 55. That's a 20-point differential. Man, that's a couple of burgers, shakes, fries, and if you're in Houston, that's a 3-piece Frenchies with a pepper and a red soda water. So you got to, do you really want to play Tuskegee women? They're looking
Why he got to make it about Houston?
That's right. So
they don't know nothing about them Frenchies, man. He over there. He won't. What y'all got over there? With the chicken? I can't think of it.
You know what? Bojangles.
Yeah.
Don't bring
I want a Raising Cane's just for the sauce.
Bojangles ain't got nothing on French.
I mean, yeah, I honestly want a Raising
like
Cane's.
going to Dallas and try to get some Williams chicken. No, it don't work.
So
with that being said, welcome, Charles. We're gonna ask you, so I'm gonna go with Steve in case so you can cheat a little bit on this exam. Make sure I don't see you looking at his paper though. Steven, your early prediction, because I know you have right next week as a couple of things may play out this weekend as you told us. Who's early in the lead? I think you kind of gave us a little tease at it, but if you got to put a flyer on it, who you got coming out on the women's side of the CIAA? Steven, that's you.
Oh, who do I have? I'm sorry. I thought it was Charles. I was making sure I was being deferential. I got Lincoln. I got Lincoln. They're the defending champs. They lost some of the players from there, but they have some pieces back too. I think they're peaking at the right time. So I will go with Lincoln.
No problem, Charles.
Yeah, I have to defer to Steven on this. I think it's been Lincoln. You expect for them to come back in and defend their crown. So I'm expecting a good showing next week with regards to Lincoln. But I was just thinking coming in, it's been so topsy-turvy in the CIAA. I don't know what's going to happen next week. I'm really looking forward to that tournament because anything can happen next week, especially on the men's side.
More so on the men's side.
Yeah.
More so on the men's side.
We're gonna get a little more into the men's side after this break because I really want to get into detail. I think as you alluded to, Mike, it's gonna be fun over there on the men's side, particularly for the CIAA. But much like you said, Stephen, kind of what you're thinking about the CIAA is what you used to seeing in the SIAC. Teams go into the SIAC tournament all the time, playing really good basketball with the chest all out, if you would, because they've won the division, have this great record of what they've done, anything, and then tournament time comes and it all falls apart. That seems to be the case for the CIAA. But the question I really wanted to ask you here is, I want for those that haven't experienced, not just the CIAA tournament. A lot of folks have found a way to sneak into those CIAA tournaments. When I say sneak in, they obviously pay their money, but they've went to that. But more folks have not necessarily had a chance to go to a CIAA campus game, those gyms, right? Whether it's to watch a game. Charles got a chance to do it this past weekend, calling a game, Tuskegee and Miles. Talk about particular for those that haven't been there and maybe experienced, fortunately, from HBCU Go TV, ESPN Plus, and maybe seeing some of them games. Black College Sports Network obviously has worked more in terms of the SIAC, but happily they're able to get over there in the CIAA. But talk about what makes it really special.
Yeah, I think I have an interesting perspective on this because when I went to Winston-Salem State, that's when for the last 3 of my red shirts, including my red shirt senior year, we were doing the Division One MEAC round table. So we played most of our games in the Coliseum or Coliseum Annex off of campus. And, outside of playing North Carolina A&T, at that time, pretty much everybody was out of state. So it was a different feel. So when I started doing HBCU game day and got a chance to cover it, I got a chance to really see the CIAA beyond the tournament. And I think the thing that the CIAA has in its favor is the close proximity for a lot of schools, especially in North Carolina. I mean, living in North Carolina, you bump into a CIAA grad or a CIAA school, and it's nowhere. Like, so last night, Winston-Salem State was taking on Johnson C. Smith. Johnson C. Smith's gym seats about 1,400 people, and Charlotte is one of the bigger cities for alumni for Winston-Salem State. So people already know. They got to come and get their tickets early, because if not, you might run into a situation like what happened at Shaw in Raleigh, where somebody, you might not get into your own team's gym because certain teams travel or whatever. So that close proximity,
I love it.
Lends just a little bit of atmosphere there that takes it to the next level. I mean, I would say the rivalry that people talk about most in North Carolina, outside of the state, is A&T and Central, and the reason that is because it's close. It's proximity. It's people are from Durham and they go to school in Greensboro, whatever. So it's that 1,000 times. So you think about Livingstone and Johnson C. Smith are like 45 minutes away on traffic. Winston and Livingstone 45 minutes away. Shaw and St. Aug, they're right next door to each other. The Virginia schools, it's the same type of situation. So just being able to have that type of proximity just brings a bit of atmosphere that I think is really special. And so, yeah, it's definitely, of course, we love the tournament, but just, and the students, a lot of them, they know each other. And so it's just I think it just adds a lot to it. So if anybody can get a chance to check out a regular season CIAA game, for sure, it's definitely a tasting atmosphere. So much that you can't even have they won't even, here's how intense it is. They won't even let the cheerleaders cheer at the same place. Like it's like they can't do it anymore because it got to be a thing. So
bring it on.
Bring it on. Hey, Charles, I know you got a question. I'm gonna let you answer it on the other side as we bring back and talk a little bit more about the men's. Great description in terms of what goes on there. That's why they give you the pen and paper, as they say. I know you do it electronically now, but still a really well job with that. It reminded me and took me back literally, and I haven't thought about this in a long time, where I kind of first fell in love with HBCUs and didn't even realize it. I think until you just said it, is when Paul Quinn College was still in Waco. My dad would take me over there, and I remember getting over there early as he'd get on for work, pick us up, make sure we did our homework, and we're zooming over there to the campus, and you'd get in. He had a relationship in terms of knowing the coach and the athletic director, support him in different ways, so we'd be able to get in, but you'd have these folks. It was like what we experienced in terms of trying to get in the club, after you being cool and waiting for a while, and they try to make sure that you understand how packed it is. They sit you outside and you breathing in, trying to look in as they talk about, all right, two more. We'll be right. Exactly. Looks great picture. We'll be right back after this break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll debut the men's mid-major. Top 10, we'll get in a lot more talk of the CIAA from a men's perspective. We'll let Charles get his question in to give us some more cultural framework of CIAA and what many of us experience at our HBCUs that we love from the various conference. We'll get a chance to talk a little more about that. Stick with us. We'll be right back. On the other side is getting down to the nitty-gritty in the basketball season, and we're starting to hear a little bit of the ping of the bats as we get into softball and baseball. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Don't lose it.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have the team back. We have Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. They all join us, and we have none other than the basketball guru, CIAA extraordinaire, Stephen Gaither, HBCU Game Day. Enough of the platitudes, because we finna get into the men's side. We'll see what he says about this. He gave me love on the women's side, but you got to watch folks. They give you that little candy and then they ready to snatch it back. We'll see. Receiving votes on the men's side, things are deep and interesting over here. No one dropped out of this week. Are some changes, maybe not in terms of the top 5. We'll see what that looks like. Receiving votes. Miles Golden Bears, 18-6, 13-5, 23 points. Behind them, Tuskegee Golden Tigers sit at 18-7, 13-5, and 21 points. Winston-Salem State Rams, 16-7, 8-6. Started really strong, but they hit a little bit of the bump and grind. We'll find out from Gaither what that may have been, 14 points, and whether they still have a chance to get it done in the tournament. With that, we have West Virginia State Yellow Jackets sitting at 17-7, 11-7, 12 first place votes. Those are the teams that were receiving votes this week, as nobody dropped out in terms of the poll rankings. Let's get into the top 5. Top 5 on the mid-major men's side is none other than at number 5, Claflin Panthers, 18-5, 9-5, 39 points. Obviously, this is before, again, Monday night's game is the cutoff as the poll release. Gaither will tell you about where they stubbed their toes. Fayetteville State came in there and got it done. A big win by them, showing no love to the newest members they got into Claflin Panthers. That's before, obviously, Bluefield State comes in next year. We'll see what that means and see if there'll be any kinder to them. But number 4, you have Philander Smith Panthers, 20 wins, a team that we debut with 20 wins, and you'll see that refrain, 20 wins, as we continue to go. 20-5, 10-3, 56 points. At number 3, Virginia Union Panthers, 20-6, 10-4, 60 points. At number 3, they playing some good basketball. They played in the CIAA, and it's tough over there, so they nicked themselves a little bit in terms of taking a loss, that which has allowed them to jump up. At number 2, you have Langston Lions, 24-2, 18-2, 3 first place votes. Some people think they're the best HBC program out there, and the team that is most likely to win a national championship. They're in the NIA. They played last couple of weeks with only 6 players playing, so it'll be interesting to see if they can get right. But they are at number 2, 3 first place votes, 76 points. Tougaloo Bulldogs, 25-1, 13-0. Some people talk about their schedule, but there's something about being perfect in conference and only having 1 loss. They 1 loss, and they haven't lost to an NIA program. So, man, can you imagine if Tougaloo and Langston somehow find out against each other in the NIA tournament? Because it looks like, obviously, both teams should make it. That'd be fascinating. But Tougaloo Bulldogs remain at the top spot in week number 6, 5 first place votes, 79 points. I let Stephen Gaither go first. Charles is chomping at the bit. I don't want him to forget. I wouldn't let him ask his questions, so I'm going to let him tell me what's on his mind since he can't even breathe as we go through the top 5. What you got, Charles?
At the top 5, and I'm literally looking over here at the SIAC standings. I got 2 teams in the SIAC West, 19-6, 18-7. I got teams over here in the SIAC East, Benedict, Morehouse, Better State, 16-9, 16-8, 15-8, respectively. No love for the SIAC teams, East or West?
No. Did you hear the number of teams I said with 20 wins? Can you give me somebody? Then we can talk about it.
Well, and I guess some of that is me looking at some of these SIAC teams, especially a team like Benedict. I mean, they play above the rim. They're a fun team to watch. Miles, Tuskegee, hard-nosed defensive teams. I was just surprised nobody cracked the top 5. Yeah, they'll lock you up.
No.
They'll lock you up. They'll lock
Put
you
in
up.
a little
So I
more
was just
work. Put in a
curious.
little work. With Claflin losing on Thursday, and those teams, as you said, have won this past week, you might find Claflin falling out if you can't find a way to get rebound and get a big win this weekend. So don't be surprised if Miles, Tuskegee, or Benedict find their way in the top 5. But you got to remember, the poll only goes Monday night. So that 19 win that you're talking about came later. So that didn't figure in the poll. But great point. I'll give you that as you give some shine. I see what happens. You call a game. Stephen Gaither, you better put in his name in there if you want a little more love for the CIAA. Make sure you call a game or two over there. He said you have a little more affinity when they bring him into the building. I don't know what that is. Mike's been patiently waiting. Let me get Mike. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 5? Hopefully you're a little more grounded than your friend over there, Charles, is today.
No, I'm asking questions for the SIC. No, here's why. I mean, if I understand Tougaloo's record, undefeated, but if you look at tough defensive teams, you look at like a Miles, they're averaging, 66, 67 points a game. You look at who they're playing, and they're only allowing 65. It's a small point differential, but these are tough defensive teams. Same with Tuskegee. Small differential. I don't think
they make you work.
Yeah, they're gonna make you work for it. So I don't think the polls are seeing that. That's my issue. Those are data points that are missing in your poll. That's my concern.
Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry, Mike. I thought you had paused there.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to turn that mic off anyway. Over there. Stephen Gaither, save these people.
All right. SIC. Let's
still gonna pause there. I'm not too sure he gonna save y'all. It might be SIC, but he sounds like he going in a different direction.
SIC. Here's the thing about the SIC. You got some teams with some really good records. Miles, Tuskegee, Lemoyne Owen, who did beat Virginia Union early in the year. We'll give them their props.
They did. Yeah.
They did beat them early in the year. Benedict is 16-9, Morehouse is 6-8. So here's the thing: you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm looking at 6 teams in the SIC, a 15-team league that have single-digit wins at this point. Right? Somebody got to win, right? I'm just saying. Somebody's got to win those games. So then you look at a Miles, you look at a Tuskegee, you look at a Lemoyne Owen. They're playing a lot of teams that's got seven wins. Clark Atlanta, I saw them against Winston-Salem State earlier this year. They're a 7-win team. You know what I mean? And we'll see. I know over in the CIAA, they're whacking each other around. That's what they do. It's probably not going to be good for them seeding wise as far as the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And I'll give some respect to the NAIA, folks as well. We did have Xavier, who was 18-7. They did play Virginia Union, and they got beat pretty solidly, but it was competitive. I will look at, also so they also played Lemoyne Owen, and they were 1-1 against Lemoyne Owen. They played them in an exhibition, and they played them in a game that counted. They won the game that counted, and then they beat up on Johnson C. Smith early in the year too. So I'll give the NAIA some credit for sure. Winning that amount of games is never easy. Tougaloo's, one of their losses is to a D2 school, Mississippi College. I don't know how great they are. So there's that. But I think the poll is solid. I really don't have any.
Stephen,
I would say Fayetteville State may be playing better basketball right now for the most part than maybe either of those CIAA teams that you've played, especially Claflin, since they just beat them. But they do kind of have a middle of the road record. They struggled early, so I don't have any problems with the poll right now.
Stephen, can I ask you one question?
What's up?
Who's that you said beat Johnson C. Smith? I just want to ask.
Xavier. So I was using them as a because we don't get in the CIAA we don't get a lot of NAIA matchups. So that was just one that I knew that happened. That was a part of the Chris Paul HBCU tip off, and they've won 18 games as an NAIA school. So I figured that was a pretty good barometer.
Yeah, that was good. That was a 20-point victory, but it's Johnson C. Smith. I mean, seriously. They're like
I gave them the credit for that. They are one of the teams that are not haven't hit 10 wins yet, but they beat two of the teams that are on the top 5 though.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. They beat Virginia Union.
Go ahead, Charles. I don't think they beat them, but they have beat. Mike will make his point.
I was going to ask Stephen, especially when we take a look at teams over the past few years, maybe a team like Talladega or this year's Tougaloo team. We started taking a look at some of these strong NAIA teams. How did they match up against a CIAA team or an SIAC team?
Yeah, I think they're so rare. That's why, and that's again why I brought up Xavier, because they played Virginia Union as well as Johnson C. Smith. You know what I mean? So I have to wreck my brain as far as other NAIA programs. There's not a lot of them that are standing out. The CIAA teams that played this year, for the most part, they play teams in their Atlantic division, and then there's some other teams that are kind of like a Clinton College who's not NAIA anymore. They're NC, one of these divisions, and then they're more college. So there's not a lot of NAIA, CIAA mixing. I do like the Chris Paul. That does give us a chance to see a little bit of that. At least it did this year. So, maybe there'll be some more of those matchups. But I know strength of schedule wise, a team like Claflin, who has played a lot of SIAC teams, or played a couple of SIAC teams. I know they've taken, one of the things about them, they're 18-6, but their strength of schedule has been really taking a hit as far as the D2 tournament. We're looking at that as well, even though they've been nationally ranked. So, it's interesting. You kind of have to, you playing in the division that they play in the CIAA, which is the Atlantic region. It's a really tough region. You need as many in-region Division II wins as you can get. And so it doesn't really lend for them to play a lot of NAIA schools, unfortunately.
Interesting.
Yeah. With that being said, sticking with you, Stephen, what is your big matchup on the men's side that you want people to keep their eyes on?
Well, I would say this Saturday, there's Virginia Union and Virginia State. Virginia Union is hosting. They're 21-6, they've got the best record in the CIAA. But they've dropped a couple clunkers recently. And Virginia State was doing well. They hit a little bit of a nosedive. They're 4-5, in the division, but they are 10 wins in the conference. So Union is 11-4, and Virginia State is 10-5. And as well as Fayetteville State is now 10-5 in the North. So Fayetteville State has Johnson C. Smith. They should win that game, but they only beat them by 1 earlier in the year. But that was at Brave Boy Gymnasium and Johnson C. Smith, and they're tough to play there for everybody for some reason. I won't give my theories as to why they're tough to play there, but they'll be playing in Fayetteville. So
you just don't want to get fined.
Well, nobody's gonna find me. All I would get was fines, but
Exactly. Mike, you had a follow-up question you want to ask?
No, I was just going back to NAIA versus D2, whatever. I mean, I thought the example that Stephen had was really good. Was a Virginia Union against Xavier, but don't use the Johnson C. Smith. That was just.
I mean, I'm saying they beat them like they should have beaten Johnson.
Jay Mack on here wanted to give you another one. He said Morehouse beat Fayetteville State in Atlanta earlier this year.
Right, and Fayetteville State is now they're on top of the division, but they're 15-12 overall. So they've had their spots.
I guess my question was for Stephen. You have a lot more experience. If we had a lot more of these matchups, what's your gut feel? I know we don't know. What's your gut feel for how they would shake up? Do you think it would be 50-50? And I
like that. Good question.
I think on a neutral court would be interesting. I think on the home court, I think whoever would have the home court would definitely probably have an edge. I like Virginia Union over any of those schools. I just do, and probably Claflin too. But I think, I think there would be compelling matchups. I'm not saying they would steamroll over all of them, but because some of these teams do have multiple D1 guys that are there, as some of the better D2s do as well. So I think it would be competitive. It would definitely be fun to see. I just don't know that we'll ever see it with the CIAA, knowing that they've got a serious built-in bias against them already, being HBCUs in the toughest D2 conference region. I'm sorry,
Stephen. That's a really good point.
If you had to call, go ahead, Doc.
Nah, we're up against it. I just wanted to ask you, what type of matchups, and it doesn't have to be Division II. I know we had a lot of that. What key matchups do you want people to keep their eyes on this weekend?
Obviously,
I think for sure at the D1 level, I would definitely say, Howard going to Baltimore. Obviously, we made a joke about it last night, but we finally let Howard. Half the MEAC left, and Howard finally got good at sports. And so, now us on the East Coast got to deal with it. They're like that. They're like that guy that's like good looking and his family's rich and girls like him, but the only thing he has is he can't play sports. So now he's got a little game on him, and he's like really walking around like that.
Howard is the Theo Huxtable of HBCU.
Yeah.
Exactly. What about you? What games you want to keep your eyes on, Charles?
Grambling Southern in Salt Lake. I think that'll be a fun one this weekend. I like to see these teams play each other on their own home court, but it's an interesting juxtaposition with them out there in Salt Lake City. So it'll be a great showcase for swag basketball, a great showcase for Grambling Southern.
Yeah,
I agree.
Same here.
I'm looking at it in terms of attendance too. Obviously, there's some things that are built in that should help it. But I'm curious to see what that looks like. Mike, what game did you want to keep your eyes on?
That same one, just for that very reason. But I'm looking to see what the environment's like. What's that crowd gonna look like? So, that'll be interesing.
Keep an eye out.
Yeah, J Mac said, can his Morgan State Bears get some love? We talked about it on Tuesday. Your women are in number one in the major division poll rankings on the women's side. The ladies are getting it done over there for the Morgan State Bears. The men have struggled of late. They went out there and punched some people in their mouth, but over late they've struggled. I think it's my understanding an injury has kind of derailed them a little bit. We'll see if they can get it going, closing down. They have some key matchups. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Again, in terms of HBCU Go, we do have some television matchups that you can catch on some stuff. As Alcorn State at Jackson State doubleheader, 12:30 and 3 o'clock on Saturday. And then on Monday, you have 5:30, 8 o'clock, Mississippi Valley at Prairie View doubleheader. You have your Saturday morning games that you can check on CW, produced by a program out there, getting it for some CIAA as they close out the season. So something to keep your eyes on. Make sure you continue to read and follow us, as we say, in terms of what's going on there. But make sure you check out Stephen Gaither, HBCU Game Day, with his great articles that he continues to keep you informed about the HBCU landscape and multiple facets, giving you insight that you can't quite get anywhere else. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watts, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watts, Charles Bishop, and our guest today, Stephen Gaither, every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Make sure you look these guys up on Twitter, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Stephen Gaither. Follow them, give them a like. Subscribe to HBCU Game Day. While you're subscribing to HBCU Game Day, make sure you do the same thing for BCSN. We're out here giving you all this content as much as we can, spending a lot of time doing research and homework. We'd love to get the support. My JBN, my BCSN. Go to the website, support us. 25th anniversary of BCSN, giving you all you need from your HBCU perspective. Live content that you can't quite get anywhere else. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, on YouTube for Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles, Course. Mike.
Lecture.
Steven.
Dismissed.
You got it. He did his homework. 100. He passed.